Faster than border market does.
Yeah, quick.
No, I just looking at everything.
No, mátale la música también.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1. Testing 1 2 3. Testing. There you go. Thank you.
You know, I got rid of all my suits when I retired, but I kept the jackets. I may as well use them. That's it. That's it. Tom is difficult in yes. Sometimes. Oh my goodness. All right, everybody. Let's get on the dais.
But you're showing there's nothing there.
Recording in progress.
But if I were to argue for it,
You can. But our recommendation
all
is
right,
that
let's
it's
get
Have
this
a
thing
party
on
just
the
to meet
road.
everybody. Well, everybody, we're
Should have
starting
a
the
party
meeting.
to meet everybody.
I like that idea. It's a good idea.
Hey, Javier, how are you?
Good to see you.
Used to do stuff like that all the time.
That'd be fun.
It was fun, you know, that way you get to know people.
Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the City of Coral Gables Historic Preservation Board. We are residents of Coral Gables and are charged with the preservation and protection of historic or architecturally worthy buildings, structures, sites, neighborhoods, and artifacts which impart a distinct historical heritage of the city. The board is comprised of 9 members, 7 of whom are appointed by the commission, 1 by the city manager, and the 9th is selected by the board and confirmed by the commission. 5 members of the board constitute a quorum, and 5 affirmative votes are necessary for the adoption of any motion. Any person who acts as a lobbyist pursuant to the City of Coral Gables Ordinance Number 2006-11 must register with the city clerk prior to engaging in lobbying activities or presentations before city staff, boards, committees, and/or the city commission. A copy of the ordinance is available in the office of the city clerk. Failure to register and provide proof of registration shall prohibit your ability to present to the Historic Preservation Board on applications under consideration this afternoon. A lobbyist is defined as an individual, corporation, partnership, or other legal entity employed or retained, whether paid or not, by a principal who seeks to encourage the approval, disapproval, adoption, repeal, passage, defeat, or modifications of A, any ordinance, resolution, action, or decision of any city commissioner. B, any action, decision, recommendation of the city manager, any city board or committee, including but not limited to quasi-judicial advisory board, trust, authority, or council. Or C, any action, decision, or recommendation of city personnel during the time period of the entire decision-making process on the action, decision, recommendation, which foreseeably will be heard or reviewed by the city commission or the city board or committee, including but not limited to quasi-judicial, advisory board, trust, authority, or council. Presentations made to this board are subject to the city's false claims ordinance, chapter 39 of the City of Coral Gables City Code. I now officially call the City of Coral Gables Historic Preservation Board meeting of October 18th, 2023 to order. The time is 4:04 p.m. Present today on my left are Mr. Durana, Mr. Silver, Mr. Aaron Half, Mr. Maxwell. To my right, Ms. Spain, Ms. Corva-Dene, and Ms. Rolando, and myself, Vice Chairperson Cesar Garcia Pons. Next item is the approval of the minutes of the meeting held on September 20th, 2023. Are there any changes or corrections? May I have a motion to approve?
Move to adopt the minutes.
Motion by Mr. Maxwell. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Aaron Haft. Any discussion? Voice vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Notice regarding ex parte communications. Please be advised that this board is a quasi-judicial board and the items on the agenda are quasi-judicial in nature, which requires board members to disclose all ex parte communications. An ex parte communication is defined as any contact, communication, conversation, correspondence, memorandum, or other written or verbal communication that takes place outside a public hearing between a member of the public and a member of the quasi-judicial board regarding matters to be heard by the quasi-judicial board. If anyone has made any contact with a board member when the issue comes before the board, the member must state on the record the existence of the ex parte communication, the party who originated the communication, and whether the communication will affect the board member's ability to impartially consider the evidence to be presented regarding the matter. I'm going to ask at this time if there are any ex parte communications, or we can do it again at the time of the item. Okay, moving on to staff. Are there any deferrals on the agenda for today? Request for deferrals.
Good afternoon. Yes, there have been 2 requests for deferrals. One is for item, the local historic designations, item 1, 23-6513, the local historic designation of property of 5005 Hammock Park Drive. They've requested a deferral to the following meeting to be held on November 15th.
How's the November agenda look?
It's ready for them.
Okay, any discussion by the board for a 30-day deferral?
No objection.
Okay, no objection. We can defer the item without a vote, correct?
Correct.
Okay, it's deferred to the next meeting.
And the second deferral was the request for the historic designation number 2, case file 23-6514, for the local historic designation of the property at 1221 Milan Avenue. This was the property that was remanded back to the board by the city commission. There's been a request to defer 60 days to the December 20th meeting. And we are in support of that as well.
Okay, any questions since this is being referred back to us? Any thoughts on this, or are you okay to just defer
was
to
the
this
address?
meeting?
1221 Mylan Avenue.
Okay, and what number were you?
It is the number 2 under local historic designations.
Okay. Somehow I
Wasn't
have-
that the one that was cited for something?
It does have code violations, yes.
So what is the stat? I mean, this is continues to be deferred and deferred. Is what's happening to that property?
This is the first time it's been scheduled to be back before the board since it's been remanded.
Okay, so I'm fine to defer to December 30th for the city.
Just for the record, I'm
December
sorry,
20th.
Mr. Chair, December 20th. Just for the public, if anyone's watching, that will be heard December 20th.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. December 20th.
Thank you, that's it.
For the record, can we note that Mr. Gillis has arrived? Swearing in. If any persons in the audience will be testifying today, please rise to be sworn in.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can we confirm if there's anybody on Zoom who will be testifying? And if so, could they please turn on their cameras and the court reporter can swear them in as well?
Please, let's. If there's anyone on Zoom? Yes? Can somebody ask them to turn on their camera so that we can see them?
If anyone on Zoom is going to be testifying today, can please turn your camera on, and can we have our IT staff please make sure they're up on the camera so that the court reporter can swear them in? If you're not going to be testifying, please note that in the chat. If not, we can always do that when the item is called. Thank you, Mr. Garcia-Pons.
You got it. Okay, first item is Special Certificate of Appropriateness, case file COA SP 2023-006. An application for the issuance of a special certificate of appropriateness for the property at 4300 Palmarito Street, a contributing resource within the Italian Village Historic District, legally described as lots 1 and 2, block 12, Coral Gables Riviera, section part 1, according to the plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 28 at page 31 of the public records of the Miami-Dade County, Florida. The application requests design approval for additions and alterations to the property and site work. Variances have also been requested from Article 2, Section 2-0101D, number 4A, and Article 13, Section 13-303 of the Coral Gables zoning code for the minimum front setback and increasing the existing nonconformity of the residence.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So this is a location map of the property. It was designed in 1925 by Robert Law Weed. It is part of the Italian Village Historic District, which was designated in November of 1992. Oh, I'm sorry, Kara. This is a photo from the 40s of the property in question. There had already been some alterations to this residence at the time this photo was taken. Notably, you can see that the front had already been enclosed, this walkway. I believe the side had already been enclosed by this point too. So the property, they are requesting approval for demolition of an existing addition, one-story, constructed in 1998. A construction in its place of a two-story addition to the rear that's south of the existing residence, and a very small second-floor addition on the historic 1925 residence. This will require a variance, which I'll discuss in a moment. They are adding impact-resistant windows and doors, restoration or rehabilitation of historic features on the residence. I gave you all the original drawings for reference so that you could see what they were doing. Interior remodeling and extensive site work. So this will require a variance, which I will just discuss briefly before I turn this over to the architect. There are two, and they have to be considered in order, and in a specific order, because the first one is related to Article 13, Section 13-303. And This has to do with the existing nonconformity of the structure. All properties in the Gables have to have a 25-foot minimum front setback. This property has a 0-foot front setback because of its style and because of its siting in the village, which is appropriate for this village and the look that they were trying to achieve. So anything that happens on this residence needs a variance because it is wholly within the front setback. So if you guys are okay with that, with granting them to increase the nonconformity by adding a small addition to the house, then you can move on to the second one, which is to allow the addition, the second-story addition, to have a front setback of 0.0 to match the rest of the house. We are in support of the variances as it is an unusual existing condition that leaves them with no other choice but to ask for this. So I will turn it over to the architect. We do have some conditions of approval that we can discuss at the end.
Thank you, Ms. Couts.
Let me see before you go. Click this is go.
Good afternoon, Rafael Portuondo, Perotti Architects. We've been practicing Coral Gables for 37 years. So we're glad to be chosen to do this job because it's actually a really beautiful home, and our goal at the end of the day is to actually bring it back to its original intent. One of the things that you'll see is, sorry, let me get my bearings on this. A lot of the things that they removed the brackets, they removed the light fixtures. This is still the existing front door. This was converted into an interior space, but we're actually redoing it to make it more like you would see in a Swiss villa, where that instead of being sort of mamey color, it's going to be more white, and we're going to clean up the paneling to make it more commensurate with the style. The addition is here, which is basically adding a bedroom, and you'll see that in the drawings. One of the things that we're knocking down is this structure, which was built probably in the 70s or 80s. Kara, you can shout out if I'm wrong. Right, 98. This was an existing connector. A lot of these properties, for example, had an entrance that was from the side yard, and you would walk across, go into this connector, and then go into the house, kind of like a back door. We're keeping that. We're getting rid of all of this stuff that was built in the 90s. So all of this is going, and this is where the new structure is going up. Existing residences and precedent. Site plan. You can see here the existing non-conforming. In diagrammatic form, this is the addition of the second floor. One of the things that we enjoy is, so when I was in graduate school, one of the people that I studied was DeGarmo and Phineas Pace. And they were classicists, but fun classicists in a way. But with that idea, we took that forward. So even when you have what was back of house kitchen, we actually pocheted the walls, made the transitions work. So this becomes sort of bar butler's pantry. This becomes the addition here, which is the kitchen. And this is the new construction, which is here, which is a little vestibule and a breakfast nook. So it's kitchen, breakfast, family room, game room, the stair that goes up to the second floor master bedroom. So this portion of the house is more the kids and stuff, and this becomes more the master. This is the addition. Right now, it's a really tight bathroom and a really tight bedroom. So by adding this, we can get 2 bathrooms and a bedroom. Still within the same dialogue as the house in terms of plan type. You can see it here, the same sort of closets as Poche. The roof plan, the connector, existing connector, and then the new construction. So this is what's existing, and you can see how they've eliminated a lot of the things that were part of the house from before, which is all of this stuff here. So we're adding that bracket back, we're adding the light fixture back, we're removing the canopy. We're actually keeping the front door, but we're actually moving the main front door back about 6 feet so that we don't have to get rid of this door as a non-NOA door. Existing garage doors, existing garage opening, we're trying to put like a wood gate thing that adds to the charm. And all of these doors and stuff are existing to remain. Adding a new barrel tile roof. So one of the things that we were looking at in terms of historically the right color was we're thinking of going to a white with the idea that a lot of the details will pop nicer. Wood shutters, restoring the front door. This used to be like a sleeping porch, which is now being converted. It's already converted into an office, but we're changing all the windows to the house to match the historic windows. This is the side elevation. So we're getting rid of all this construction. This is going to be the new rear facade, if that's the right term. This is the existing house. So we've actually added the windows in a pattern that is commensurate to the house. If I were to enlarge this detail here, it's that really beautiful historic Coral Gables detail, which is, it kind of fans out and it creates like a stuccoed return on each side, and it prevents the water from hitting the windows. One of the things that Kara actually turned us down on the first go-around, and it was the best thing she ever did. We had this as a sort of symmetrical villa, but one of the comments was it's too different from the house because the house is not about symmetry. And when we went to the Board of Architects, we presented that turned down, great thing. We came back and created a much more picturesque home with the taller elements farther from the home, and the house sort of comes sort of tapering down to connect to the main house. We drew these as round windows in the kitchen. One of the comments from Kara is going to be that if we could keep the square windows, we're fine keeping the square windows. So in the pool facade, we have the same idea where it becomes much more picturesque. You start to see the higher elements, the lower elements. The lower element continues across horizontally, becomes the breakfast nook, becomes one-story terrace, and becomes a two-story. So you start to get that sort of more playful language connecting to the main house. This was the existing covered breezeway, which is going to be turned into the kitchen. So this is more a drawing showing the sort of shade and shadow, the playfulness that DeGarmo would use in his balconies. It's not a DeGarmo home, but it's part of my historical kit of parts, as Tom Spain would say. And the sort of the sort of cutouts in the parapet. It didn't want to be fussy with like railings in the whole thing. So it becomes a private terrace off the master. The trellises are actually metal tubing, so it's not a heavy trellis. So it becomes a lighter structure, so it doesn't take away the strength of the main white stucco home. One of the other critiques of the previous design that we did was addressing the auto court. So we added a fountain, and then we have a large window in the stair hall because the stair goes down diagonally, so there's natural light going in. And then we have, scattered through the house, sort of niches and recesses with pots or statues or things. And that's basically that.
Thank you, Mr. Portolano. Anything from staff in addition? No? Any questions from the board? Any questions of the architect or staff before we get?
There's one thing that Kara brought up to me, which was let me see.
Make your pitch now.
So, historic, so as not to name names, the existing house had a blank wall. And in talking to the owners, we would like to add a window with shutters that match the existing home, and only to give the garage a little bit more natural light. It's not an end-all in terms of the house. And I thought that just having a blank wall was a bit severe, so we're considering doing this. Madame?
Our argument is that it's adding a conjectural feature that doesn't already exist and kind of giving it more prominence than it already had. So our recommendation was to eliminate that from the scope of work.
Thank you.
And that's the original wall, right?
Yeah. And so while this is up, so just so you all know, it was in the drawings, but that low connector piece, it was an outdoor loggia that led to a carport. The carport was taken down in '98 when they did that other addition, and so my guess is that you drove in from the Palmerito side through the carport into the back of the garage. So anyway, but it's been long enclosed, that loggia.
Thank you. Mr. Ehrenhaft, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. It's relatively minor, but I think one of the last sentences, and I don't see which paragraph it was in the description in the staff report, but if you go to drawing BA-01, which it's an aerial view of the
This one?
yes. So there was a reference to a request for permitting to put some parking pads in the front. And I see that, if I'm correct, then there's one that's rectangular and another that's sort of not square. It's
So
right
this is
there.
the existing drive-through.
Right.
That is a drive-through?
Right.
Okay. But there was a comment about adding additional parking on the
It's a
swale.
public works permit.
Yeah.
And there's also a bunch of vegetation that's proposed for the right-of-way that they're going to have to deal with them with. That's not really part of this. It's just the parking pad, because it normally doesn't come to us. It's a public works permit.
Right.
And we get called after the fact, and people go, why did you let them put, a parking strip in front of their house? So
Yeah.
if you guys want to weigh in on it, that's great. If you don't, that's fine too.
I mean,
It happens in the French city village quite often. Because there is, a lack of parking.
Exactly, yeah.
So,
That was actually the gist of that, because everyone parked exactly at that spot because it's right by the front door. And instead of the grass sort of dying off, it was at.
I mean, I don't know whether I should be speaking about what I thought about that.
You
but
can. I mean, you're-
I thought that it seemed to me like it was going to be minimally used, because you've got the garage for the familial use. So.
It would only be for-
And
it would only
there's
be
going to
for-
be landscaping there anyway. I don't think that it's something that is going to offend the,
yeah, there's not a huge pushback in the French city. It just, when one shows up, we get a phone call, but then it kind of goes away because everyone, I mean, I parked there when I posted the property, so it's the natural spot to go, so. The only other comment, but you did bring up something, is one of the statements in here is that if you go to the Altera elevation, had to do with the small addition to the house on the second floor. It's seamless. It's a small addition. There's not a lot of detail on the house in terms of overhang, in terms of a place for a score line. We're open to suggestions, but at the moment, I'm okay if they remove the shutters off of the window so that at least it's not, matching the one next to it that's historic. But there's no real way to make that quote unquote different.
I like the idea of taking off the shutters.
I mean, you'll see a stucco differentiation subtly, but a score line would be not good.
Oh, I agree.
So we were okay with it.
Any other questions for staff? If not, I do have one. It was related to the stucco. Since it's going to be seamless, how are you going to stucco the addition to the main house, and how is the new cabana house being stuccoed?
Oh, we didn't ask that because it's so different anyway. I didn't ask about the stucco.
Usually,
I was hoping you weren't going to ask me that question. So let me just say this. And my choice would be to match existing stucco, because I've always felt that there was no need to go with a rough stucco and then a smooth stucco or something like that. So I would say that if we were going to add the area on the front facade, it would be odd to change the stucco.
right, and Mr. Bordeaux, I don't have an agenda, it's just a question.
It would be odd to change the stucco in just this little spot, right?
So it would be your intention to match
To
existing?
Match existing.
And for the new building?
Match existing.
So that's just information for the board. Thank you for the answer. I did have one more question. Again, if anybody else has a question, I'm happy to hold.
Question, please.
Yes,
A
Mr.
few,
Gillis.
actually. So the Gothic window, talk to me about that.
I'm sorry?
The Gothic window, the triangular pointed window.
It's existing.
It's existing.
I'm trying to figure out, though, because I don't,
This one?
yeah. That was in the original plans?
Yes. And actually, the window that's there now is not like the original window, but we're turning it back into the original.
Something looked off about it. That's why I was wondering.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
That's the whim of these architects.
Because there is another one on Altera, I think, that has a huge window like that that really goes with the house. But this, I don't know.
And what's interesting about that window, Brett, is it's like 6 or 7 feet off the floor. What's kind of cool about it is that you can furnish underneath it, and the window is kind of like set up high, right? So, and this is a 2-story living room with exposed beams, so it reads really nicely in the room.
Okay. And the front door you mentioned, is that original? What's that?
Yes.
Okay. And staff's okay with moving that, or?
No, so what they're doing, can you go to the floor plan?
Yeah, that's
It's
very
actually
cool.
a really great solution. Instead of replacing it with an NOA impact-resistant door, which most people would have to harden the exterior, they're moving the hardening to interior.
So we're moving the door back, the door with product approvals and the whole thing,
Okay.
and this is going to be an exterior foyer.
Oh, exterior.
So it's a non-air
vestibule.
conditioned space. So we're actually able to use that door as a shutter, because now you can open it and close it, and it's part of the house,
Yeah, it's like a gate.
the gate.
It's
Very cool.
yeah, isn't it? It's a nice solution.
Yeah.
And then the white color, I mean, I've noticed in the Italian Village, a lot of houses are getting painted white. I know we can't really stop that, but was that you did a paint assay, or where did that color
Yeah.
come?
What happens, there was a time in Coral Gables where all the houses were painted like an ochre yellow. Then they started to become like mamey red. And I think at the end of the day, when I drive by a lot of the old historic homes that haven't been, like the paint is, they tend to be white. And I think an off-white or a sort of white, I just think the house becomes more about shade and shadow than it does about the color. And so I kind of like that, that it's, so if you look at a bunch of houses on Granada, they're basically white. And if you think about going to like Greece where everything's white, the white with the trees and the landscaping, I just think that this look is really pretty. And I think if it was like cream or beige, that you would lose the beauty of the greenery with the white.
So Phineas Paste would disagree with you about the white, I'm just saying.
But a lot of Phineas, but a lot of Phineas Pace's houses were white.
I know.
Arbor Parks at many functions would, corner me about white
houses.
historic homes. But I have to say, I agree with you. I think it really brings out the architecture.
The timbering will really pop out, like the
Yes.
Normandy Village. A
Yes.
lot of it will.
And this,
I don't have an
and
issue with it.
the
And
Dutch
at some
South
point,
African.
Someone's there's going to be another trend. I don't believe that paint is a character-defining feature of most of the homes, although some of them maybe you could say.
Say most.
Just curious, what would have Phineas Pace painted the color of the house?
He did. There's a whole article he wrote about color studies in the Gables.
You know what? I've never read that.
I'll
Oh,
give
it's
it to
amazing.
It's
You
a
would
good one.
love it.
Yeah, it's a good one.
There was a street that he intended to start out as very dark colors and then gradually, by the end of the street, become pale. I was like, that's going to happen. But it was a very nice concept.
Let's assume this is at the end of the street.
Great. Any other questions for staff or the applicant before I go to public hearing?
Yeah, on the window shutters, are they operable?
Yes. Not usable, but we're gonna, okay, let me take a step back. We're gonna put all the kit of parts for the,
Sorry?
we're gonna put all the kit of parts for the shutters, like, the strapping, the hinges, but since the windows have impact, so they're.
I understand
yeah.
that. I mean, I just want to know if they're going to.
Yes,
Okay.
So that's one of our conditions, that they be operable or not, a lot of people come and then just mount them on the wall, so they're flat, and we don't want that, so, yeah.
I've learned my lesson.
I know you know.
He's been there, done that.
Do you have any objection to the conditions of staff?
I'm sorry?
Do you have any objections to the conditions listed in the staff?
The only one that I had somewhat of a disagreement with was the west facade,
Number 11.
the garage facade, which was to try to add the window. It's not a deal breaker from my end, but it was just something the client wanted.
That's condition number 11. Okay, let me open it up for public hearing before we come back to the board. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to this case? How about anybody on Zoom? Okay, hearing none, closing public comment period, bringing it back to the board. Any board discussion amongst ourselves? Ms.
I think
Spain?
he's very good. I think
Thank you.
Mr. Portuano is an excellent designer.
Donna, I can't hear you. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
speak into the microphones,
I'm sorry.
everybody.
I think I can't reach the microphone, and I'm really tall. I think that Mr. Portuano is an excellent designer. I think this will improve the house.
Thank you.
I think it's a beautiful project. I appreciate all the effort that's been put into it. I do agree with staff, though. I think that you're doing all this work to restore it to the original configuration. I think we should leave off that additional window in the garage. So I would be in favor of all of staff's comments. But great job.
Thank you.
If there's no additional discussion, do we have a motion? Oh, wait. Do we need a motion in order?
So, yes, so Stephanie.
Which is the first
So
one that needs to be
the
made?
variance for the non-conformity, do they have to do that before they accept the design?
I don't think the order really matters, but we could do them if you would like to do the variances first. We're happy to do the so.
Okay, then you need to start with the Article 13.
So the first variance or the second one? The
The first variance.
Okay. Is anybody interested in making a motion for the first variance?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Spain,
I'd like to make a motion to approve a variance to allow for alteration and vertical expansion of an existing non-conforming structure pursuant to Article 13, Section 13-303 of the Coral Gables zoning code.
is there a
and
second?
As stated in the staff report.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Durana, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? May we call the roll, please?
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Rolando?
Yes.
Mr. Gillis?
Yes.
Mr. Ehrenhaft?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes.
Ms. Dene?
Yes.
Mr. Garcia Ponce?
Yes. Motion passes.
Did I vote?
No?
I don't think so.
Did Ms. Spain vote?
Did you call me? The answer is yes.
We seconded it, yeah, and I seconded it. so.
Yeah, I'm sorry, can we just, Mr. Durana's vote as well was skipped.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so motion passes 9-0. Would anybody be interested in making a second motion?
I'd like to make the second motion.
Ms. Spain?
I'd like to make a motion to approve a variance to allow a proposed second-story addition to have a front setback of 0, where 25 feet is required pursuant to Article 2, Section 2-101D4A of the Coral Gables zoning code.
Mr. Duran, is there a second?
Yep.
Seconded by
second
Mr. Durana. Any discussion? If we can call the roll, please.
Mr. Garcia Ponce?
I should be last, but yes.
Ms. Spain?
Yes.
Mr. Durana?
Yes.
Ms. Dene?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes.
Mr. Ehrenhaft?
Yes.
Mr. Gillis?
Yes.
Ms. Rolando?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Is there a third motion to be made? And it's
Yes.
actually a two-parter.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve with the conditions noted in the staff report, other than the condition number 11, which is to remove the new window assembly at the existing garage.
So you're okay with it?
And no, I'm approving it other than that one.
No, this,
What?
Do you,
The condition is to not allow it.
is to remove it. Do you want the
Oh,
window
no,
or
I'm
not?
sorry. Then I'm sorry. I
Okay.
do not want the window there.
Okay, so then
So,
as noted.
A motion to approve with the conditions noted above the design proposal for demolition work, additions, and alterations to the residence and site work on the property located at 4300 Palmerito Street. Do I need to do the?
And
And approve the issuance of a special certificate of appropriateness with the condition noted above.
that's a motion by Mrs. Spain. Mr. Durana, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Durana. Any discussion? May we call a vote, please?
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Rolando?
Yes.
Mr. Gillis?
Yes.
Mr. Ehrenhaft?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes.
Ms. Dene?
Yes.
Mr. Durana?
Yes.
Ms. Spain?
Yes.
And Mr. Garcia Ponce?
Yes, motion passes 9-0. Thank you, Mr. Portolando.
Thank you, guys. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
You.
Next item, case file COA SP 2022-033, an application for the issuance of a special certificate of appropriateness for the property at 1317 Alhambra Circle, a contributing resource within the Alhambra Circle Historic District, legally described as lots 25 and 26, Block 17, Coral Gables, Section E, according to the plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 8 at page 13 of the Public Records of Miami-Dade County, Florida. The application requests design approval for additions and alterations to the residence and site work.
Thank you. This application was previously deferred.
And Pernis, did you say your name earlier on? I forgot.
I think I did. Sorry. Good afternoon. Anna Pernis, Director of Historical Resources and Cultural Arts. This is an application is requesting design approval for additions, alterations to the residence and site work. The property is a designated contributing structure in the Alhambra Circle Historic District. The proposed work in the application consists of construction of a new two-car garage on the west elevation. The application proposes the construction of a new two-car garage, which will be attached by a connector piece pushed back from the existing carport on the west elevation. It also includes demolition of a later rear addition to the rear of the house and construction of a new rear addition. The staff is in support of the demolition of the rear addition. The design of the proposed new rear addition is sympathetic towards the architectural style of the house than the existing additions, and will be minimally visible from the public right-of-way. Staff supports the proposed new addition. The next item will be the installation of new impact windows. The existing windows of the historic structure are to be replaced with new impact windows. All windows on the historic structure should match the historic windows in style, lighting, configuration, and operation. And we've included a condition for the applicant to work with staff to make sure that the windows are accurate to the original drawings. There will be a new front wall and iron fence installed, and the staff is in support of the proposed wall as the style is consistent with the architectural style of the house. And the new driveway will also be included, which will be done with a new Chicago brick. The application was reviewed by the Board of Architects and eventually rejected. An appeal to the Board of Architects special master was submitted, and after further consideration, the decision of the Board of Architects was reversed. A detailed timeline is provided below. And lastly, the application, the staff recommendation is for approval with conditions. The conditions are listed at the staff analysis. And here are the original plans. And the existing condition. And I'll let the applicant go ahead and present the rest.
Thank you, Ms. Prentice.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is David G. I'm with J. Bonfil and Associates, Architects. Also with me today is Jacqueline Bonfil, Architect of Record, and Ramsey Villalon, part owner. Okay, I'd like to just briefly describe the project, if I can get this thing going. Okay, the project involves like 2 additions to the property. This portion here, unshaded area, is of course the existing historical part of the house. The rear addition was this portion here that's being demolished, and we're adding this bigger addition to the back of the house. There's also an existing 2-story portion of the house that we're not touching other than redoing the windows. Same thing for the outside of the original historic house. We're just replacing the windows. The carport is to remain. The other portion of the addition is this 2-car garage front facing, a new driveway, Chicago brick, and it's utilizing this unused portion of the property. So part of the appeal process was, of course, meeting with the city architect and going back over the existing plans that we submitted to the Board of Architects. It kept getting deferred and, finally rejected. The main issues they had with the original style was the mass of the front addition, the 2-car garage, the size of it, and it didn't really disconnect or be a part of the existing original house. These are detailed site plans of the FAR, landscaping legends, landscaping requirements, and lot coverage were well within all those parameters. This is the existing house as far as the demolition goes. The only part that we're removing is, of course, that old addition that's very dilapidated and it's not even structurally sound at this point, and a portion of the existing side terrace. I'll get more into that later with the new design, but this was also an addition, as well as this rear walkway, a 1-story cabana, and the pool is all to remain. The second floor, they said, is to remain. It's just a blow up of the existing cabana to remain. It's the roof plan of the proposed. Okay, and the floor plan. Well, before I get into the floor plan and how we kind of got to this point, back to the appeal process with the city architect, we looked at many different options of what we could do with the two-car garage to, get it into scale and the proper mass for the existing buildings, for the existing house. And as far as the rear addition, they never, they didn't have a problem with or any issues with the rear addition after maybe the second BOA meeting. We did some changes to that. And so we were basically, in the appeal, was mostly dealing with the two-car garage. We tried several different options, which was to have a side approach to the garage. And there was, we worked that out and it was pretty good, but there is an existing tree like right in here that was in the way of the existing oak tree. And we just couldn't maneuver around it without getting rid of the tree. And we even hired an arborist to get his opinion on the tree, and he couldn't recommend getting rid of the tree, and he didn't think relocating it, the tree would survive. So we were back to a front approach, garage. But we did several changes in that appeal process to get it to where it's at now. We pushed back the front of the garage, at least like 10 feet from the existing front of the house, and even, pushed it back from this line of the house, which is, the main part of the house. And then what we did also was, to kind of get a disconnect from the existing, we're also proposing like a storage area for the house. Didn't have enough storage. So we got rid of that and we left a small connection from inside the house to the garage. And what that did was it created this little courtyard and it enabled us to keep the existing carport open on the side. And you'll see, like in the rendering, it makes a big difference than just having a blank wall, say from here all the way across. It makes the house look a lot better. It does have like, the same style of architecture as the existing house, which is, a simple, straightforward design. We also lowered the roof line of the garage, and this is that blank area right now. Right now, this dash line here is the existing roof line that is at the end of that terrace. You can kind of see it here. So what we're doing here is we're just squaring it off so we don't have that angle that would be really obscured. So just clean up that and and then we lower the roof line. As we said, we still have the rafter turrets coming out to match the existing one. We actually lowered the garage doors so they're a little bit lower than the windows of the house, again, which helps the mass as well and the scale of it. This is the rear addition of the house. This is the existing up top. And they had, it wasn't really a style that went with the existing house. We feel that the new addition is more in line with the existing house. This is a section cut through the house, cut through the addition, the rear addition, looking at, in this arcade terrace. And what these are is rear garage doors, all glass, because the owner is a car enthusiast, has several cars that he likes to display and work on them at the same time. So in order to do that, he would, likes to have the garage doors open, but but he doesn't want people to be able to see in from the front. So it's just an owner obsession. And the side elevation, we're doing these little roof coverings that they had before, recreating them in the new portion as well. the west side elevation. Here's the new garage. You can kind of see it's lower than that main roof line that's existing. And again, helping to scale the proportions of the addition. The front wall is also very low in scale. It's 4 feet in height total, 2 feet of wall and 2 feet of ironwork. The gates are 15 feet wide. We reduced the size of the gates as well. The design of the grill work is also, not too ornate. Originally, it was a little bit more ornate, and we cleaned it up a little bit. The landscaping will be enhanced to, of course, with the new building configuration, new driveway, it'll be enhanced more. There's already a lot of landscaping on the property. This was the original design that you guys looked at a year ago that, rejected. You can see oops. Where'd it go? Sorry about that. You can see it really didn't have a disconnect to the existing, and right in here is the courtyard. It looked very closed off from anything. This space is no longer here, and the scale is like totally changed from what we had before the appeal process started. This is the new design, how it looks. You can kind of see through the carport in here to this landscape area, and of course the two-car garage to match the same roof style throughout the existing house. This is the plan of what that previous design was. You can see, we reduced that garage area about 400 square feet. And that's the elevation. It made it look like a ranch house, basically. This is the arborist report stating that, what to do about the tree. My front elevation of the existing house, you can see it's a simple design. And anything we do, we have to we feel we have to keep it in the same style. This is that courtyard area. This is the front. That top picture is kind of like where the back of the garage would be, right in here. This is the pool area. You can kind of see the rear addition over here with these porthole windows. The existing house over here, and the cabana over on this side. The front elevation, we'll be moving this AC unit out of the way. And the existing, this structure here is the east side front, which it used to be a sunroom open on all sides. It was enclosed many years ago. There we're just replacing the windows for impact resistant. These are the houses across the street, very simple. Some are contributing resources, some are not. It's a good mix of house. Of course, this is what everybody likes about Alhambra is the street view. This is the house to the west. It's more contemporary design than the one on the east, which is more traditional. And I'm sure that's a historical house. Not working. I think it froze up. Oh, there it goes. The original house, as you saw, back in the day, there was a garage back here, I believe, which was demolished to make room for that arcade and rear addition. I think it still has original second-story windows in the house. They're metal windows. These are the findings of the special master, that he was very impressed with our final design, and he gave it great reviews. The only issue he had is he wanted for us to reduce the size of the driveway, which we did for this submittal. This is a sample of the Chicago brick that we'll be using for the driveway. The driveway, instead of it'll have a concrete border throughout, 12 inches wide concrete border. It'll be painted same color as the brick pavers. We're replacing the front door with something that's going to look very similar to this door. And then also we'll have two doors at the carport, similar design as that. The garage door will have this, look to them on the top with a clear glass on top. The specs for the windows, I know these windows, the frames nowadays are so thick compared to what they used to be originally, but we'll try to find the best possible windows that make it, look more original. Same with the sliding glass doors. The color of the house will be an off-white color with brown trim, brown tone doors and windows. Barrel tile, two-piece, cap and pan design, terracotta. Very similar to what's there now. And I think there was a couple more renderings. That's not it. I think there's maybe one more.
They were toward the beginning. I think we skipped through them. Oops, sorry.
I thought there was one at the end. Let me go back.
These four, right?
I'll just go back to the beginning then.
I think they were there. Oh, there you go. Or there's some.
That's the old one.
This is not a barrel.
So that appeal process, that's how we got here. So, we had other options as well, but we determined that this was the best solution, the only solution, and we really feel that overall it's going to be a big improvement to the house. It'll still be a contributing resource to the district, and I think it will enhance the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonifil. Ms. Bernas, anything additional from staff? Great. Any questions from the board for the applicant? Mr. Gillis?
Question. Okay. So I have to tell you, I knew the previous owners. I've been by this house.
Mr. Gillis, into the mic, please.
I walked by this house many times. I know the exterior well. A friend of mine was good friends with the judge that used to live there, so I know the house very well. Have you studied doing a flat roof on the garage and or recessing it? For instance, if you recessed it, it would make it look, I guess what I'm trying to say is the way that this rendering currently looks, it seems like you're taking a 1930s house and turning it into more like a split level or a ranch look when you look at the totality of the project. Whereas if it were recessed with the roof that you've proposed, would look different. Or if you did a flat roof with a rooftop deck, that could be another option. So what are your thoughts on that?
We did study a flat roof as well, and between us and the city architect, we decided that this was better. It stuck out too far. It had to get to a certain height to make it look proportional, and it was a little bit too overpowering for the rest of the house.
The way that this looks currently, we don't have many split level homes in Coral Gables, but there are a few. They basically have this type of footprint and look. So it's totally changing the context. And Alhambra, to me, is one of the most significant streets in the city. You know, you're very close to the water tower there. On this rendering, the roof doesn't look like a barrel tile, but you're doing a barrel tile?
It does look kind of flat, but it is barrel tile. We couldn't get it to look any better than that.
Okay, and the stucco finish, if I'm not mistaken, it has a little bit of a texture currently. This looks completely flat on the rendering.
It does have an old style look to it, wavy, and that's going to remain as far as stucco goes for the new part. Again, I'm open to suggestions also. I like that wavy look of it. I mean, I'd rather continue it, the same, wavy look to it.
The new part would typically be differentiated though, so you can see what the board says about that. If you look at the early drawing of this, there's score marks on the second story corner that if I'm not mistaken, they're still there.
They're still there, and they will remain there.
They will remain, okay. So I'm going to add that to this because that wasn't on this drawing. And that's something that I've noticed, I think, every time I've been there. So that's, even though it seems like a small detail, it's a prominent thing. The other issue that I think I go back to the Board of Architects comments. Another issue I'm having is the main entrance has been totally transformed with what you're proposing. I mean, this used to have the entrance to the right, and then now it has this, what was the carport seems to be like it's going to be the main entrance now. So I think adding up all these things, it's kind of would go back to what the Board of Architects originally said.
It will be the main entrance. It'll function as the main entrance, but as far as the existing main entrance of the house, it'll look the same as it does now. It'll still look like that's the main entrance. This is more for the owners, the way he's going to use this house, and the way he's going to invite people over and have people enter their house, and how he's going to redistribute the spaces inside the house.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gillis. Anybody else have any questions for the applicant or staff?
I have a question for staff.
Mr. Silva?
Just the special master's approval in this case is the equivalent to the BOA approval, correct?
Yes.
Thanks.
Mr. Earnhaft?
I just want to make sure, staff's comments are very clear that they want all replacement windows that are on what is the original structure to match what was originally there. And staff on page 3 specifically says that it had double casement windows, okay?
Page 3 of the staff report.
In the staff report, yes. And we have had incidents in the past where we have discussions here, and then the window manufacturing companies get contacted, and then they get into the manufacturer, and then they don't do it according to what the intent of the board was. So I want to be very specific. Actually, I do have a question for staff then. I don't know whether you can tell us whether the double casements were, say, 4 lights in each of a panel that then would separately open up as, or whether they were two casements beside each other with 8 lights. I don't know what the lighting configuration is, but the bottom line of these comments is I want the architect and the builder to know precisely what the configuration that staff is requiring to match what was historic. And then I would ask that staff be shown shop drawings before of exactly what the manufacturer is going to produce but before the production begins, so that staff can make sure that there's no mistakes. You don't want to have a disaster and have everything manufactured and delivered, and it isn't what it was supposed to be. And we've seen that happen before.
Many times. And that was going to be my comment, because the window that you showed us was a single casement, I believe. You know, the one that you said, you know, that it's wider and you're going to look for
Okay.
something that's thinner. I believe that was a single casement.
It was a
but
single
The staff
casement.
report indicates that they were all, I believe, double casements, which is
Yeah,
what,
we do have to make an exception when there's the
Egress.
regulation for the bedroom, so I think the ones upstairs
they
might
can do
need to
that
be
with
the single.
Muntins.
Right.
And do a single.
Exactly.
But the rest of them should be the double casement.
Right,
And
So instead of the single window, it's going to be split in half, and
Right.
there are going to
Right.
be two cranks.
when it doesn't have to
Double
mean
casement.
egress.
Right. Yeah.
Because those people that have inadvertently done the single casements throughout the house and then have failed the final inspection and have come to us asking us to approve it, we said no. So you just need
Yeah,
to
so we'll
know
review
going in
shop
it
drawings.
Understood.
that, that needs to happen.
Yeah, you don't want to back up and have to take everything out and remanufacture.
Very
it.
costly.
So if there's, there's a condition number 3, when the mover of the motion, if there's if they want to amend or somehow clarify condition number 3, that would be the time to do it.
Question, please. Weren't there transom windows, at least on the front facade? The top portion of that looks like they're transom to me. I don't know if they were operable or not, but if you look at the large image of the historic photo, which many of these 1930s houses had, I know on Segovia, there's a few in Alhambra, Granada.
Are you on the front elevation? Oh, here we go. So
Yes.
this actually configuration is not the original that you're seeing there. If you look at the shop drawing for the drawing of the house,
Okay.
it's a little different. So there, it looks like there were side lights and then a full window, but it looks like at some point that when they were replaced, it turned into 2 double casements with a transom.
Check on the original drawings, though, if it has the lights configuration, because I know sometimes in the charts that they did, it will specify that. It may not show it on there, but I know especially with Fink, because I've studied a lot of those plans, it will show you, he puts the lights and the
Perhaps
configuration.
on a separate detail sheet.
Yeah, no, it doesn't match. Because if you look, it has, each sash has 8 lights here, and then in the drawing, it has, 5 lights per sash.
But isn't that a transom at the top? I don't have a copy of the original plans, so.
I'll take a look, but I don't see a transom bar.
Yeah, it's pretty typical of 1930s steel. I said it's pretty typical of 1930s steel windows.
And there's sometimes they have a separate sheet that just has the window detail.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that we do have the window schedule, so I'll take a look. Also,
Yeah,
it's
that's
just
what
cut
I was
off here.
thinking. Schedule.
Mr. Durana?
I've got a question for staff. How do you feel about the 2 front door situation with the door and the carport? Is that the best option, or is that? Because I don't love it, but
I think that it's set back within that kind of carport, that it doesn't become as prominent. And since you're still reading the front entrance, that front entrance is remaining on the side entrance, that it doesn't affect
it's
it
better
too much.
pushed back than
It's
to go
better
forward.
pushed back than pulling that new front door forward. We may have to look at the style of the proposed front door, but we'll work with them to make sure that it's appropriate to the style of the house.
Mr. Silva?
Just one more question. I appreciate your work, Mr. G. I think the progression of the project has come a long way. I'm sure it was a lot of work, and I appreciate you working with the OA and with staff to come to a design that I think is much better. My only question is that maybe we should consider adding to the conditions a differentiation on the rafter tails for the new addition. Because it is so similar and it fits in very well now, I think that we should consider just a slight differentiation on the rafter tails. You can still have them exposed, just slightly different trim or cut.
You want them slightly different? Is that what?
On the addition.
Okay, on the addition.
My opinion, I'll see
Yeah, I
what the
think
board
that makes
says.
sense.
We'll see if it comes into the motion, but any additional questions for the applicant or staff from the board?
Very thorough.
Great. Let me go to public hearing. Is there anyone?
You are unmuted.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or in opposition of this case? If whoever's on Zoom can hold just a moment, please. Is there anyone in the audience in chambers that wishes to speak in favor of this case? In opposition? No. Okay, on Zoom?
Hello. You are unmuted.
Hello,
everyone.
Do you wish to speak
Can
in
you hear me?
favor?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Yes. Okay. Hi, this is Carelia.
Carelia.
I long time
Carelia.
Gables resident.
Carelia. Do you wish to be?
Do you wish to be?
Do you wish to be sworn in?
Hello? Sworn in? No, I don't need to be sworn in. It's a comment.
Okay, please proceed.
I longtime resident. I live on Altera Avenue, and I don't know about you all, but looking at this version of this new design, it looks totally different than the Marion design 1930s home. I mean, is that acceptable? I mean, how does that happen? If you put them together, even the home, the way it looks now, and the rendering, which maybe it's the rendering that looks, obviously off, in terms of what it will look like in real life, but it just doesn't look at all the same. And it's a home that really has the architectural pedigree of a very prominent architect. So I agree with the others saying that it just doesn't look, it just doesn't have that historical integrity. And I don't know how staff is accepting this. I know it has gone through some appeals, but many times, the whole point is that to keep the home as historically, with as much as historical integrity as possible. I know there's some additions added over the years, but if you look at the home the way it is even now, it looks more of a Mariam home than what that rendering looks like. So please consider that. And I don't know if there's anything, that can be done, but it really changes the whole look of the residence. And I believe the historical integrity of the architect. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carbonell. Anybody else on Zoom wish to make comment? Okay, closing public comment.
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, just for the record, I don't believe Ms. Carbonell was sworn in, so for purposes of this board, that wouldn't be sworn testimony. Obviously, you can take those comments as they were made, but they should not be considered sworn testimony for the purposes of today's hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. It's now back with the board. Public comment has been closed. Is there any discussion on the item amongst the board members? Yes. Mr. Gillis.
Okay, so I would not be in favor, I could not vote in favor of the way that the garage is being executed here. I would only be able to vote for it if it were either changed to a flat roof or if it were recessed more. That's just my opinion, so maybe there's 5 people here that feel differently, but I just think it changes the home too much. It turns it into a ranch or a split level typology, and it just doesn't work for this house.
Thank you, Mr. Gillis. Any conversation from the board? Any other comments? Okay, then I'll have one. I think I echo Mr. Silva's comment from before. The project has evolved significantly, and I think the two things that are influencing me at this particular time are your explanation of the oak tree because I would have preferred a side entrance to the garage. And the arborist report and the oak tree and the infeasibility of it makes it better for me to understand what you were going through. And then the separation between the garage and the main house, and in particular, the wall that covers the loggia angled roof behind really changes and separates the new structure from the old structure. So of all the things that you worked on, those are the two that most affected, I think, my understanding of the project. So thank you for the explanation. Is there a motion on the item based on the conversations and discussions that we've had so far? I cannot make one.
I know. Well, I'll make a motion, and then we'll just see how it goes.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion to approve with the conditions noted above. And on the third condition, the windows, the proposed windows need to be, yes, taken to staff in advance, but they need to go back to the original configuration of whatever that window was. For the design proposal for additions and alterations to the residence and site work on the property located at 1317 Alhambra Circle, a contributing resource within the Alhambra Circle District. I guess, and the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness.
Where there was a potential differentiation of the rafter tails? Is
Oh,
that
yes,
something that you?
and an added condition would be to differentiate the brackets on the garage addition.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I will second the motion.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. Spain, a second by Mr. Maxwell. Are there any conversations with the board? Mr. Silva, does that address your question?
Yes, thank you.
I've got one question. I mean,
Mr. Drana?
or a comment, I guess. I'm looking at the existing and then the rendering. Maybe, like, would it be a good idea to maybe change the windows to the white? I think at least the white looks a little bit like more, like on the original, on the current house right now, it's got white windows, and then maybe in the rendering, I don't know, it's just something about black windows or the bronze windows.
Probably metal. Oops, they were probably
they're
metal
probably
to begin
silver,
with,
yeah.
which may have
Yeah,
been a
anodized.
darker color. I think with the rendering, I
I know. I think
like
the
to
rendering
not
is throwing off because the house
rely
is
on the
very,
rendering too much, but we know that what we propose, what we reviewed
Yeah.
for the window submittal.
it's a pretty house. I mean, the house is very pretty. I think the rendering is what's throwing it off a little bit.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
Probably weren't black.
What's that?
right.
They probably were not black originally because they
Yeah.
were
Do
steel.
you want to put a suggestion for color or no? Just let that.
I would
be in
leave
the
that up
hands
to
of-
staff to work
Okay.
with them on.
Yeah. I mean, they would have been painted of some kind
Yeah,
because they
like
were
a-
steel, and you just can't leave it out like that. So you don't get aluminums until, the late 40s.
All right.
I think one of the issues is the windows, the windows, whether they're painted or black or brown, they're too heavy in comparison to the mass of the structure. So to me, they read 1980s, not 1930s. So,
Yeah, and the configuration is wrong.
yeah, and so I'd be okay with them being lighter. So I will, Ms. Spain, accept the friendly amendment?
I was going to leave it up to staff.
Oh, that's okay. I'm okay with
I'm
staff.
comfortable with staff.
Yeah, I think they can figure out the configuration.
Yeah.
Maybe is what's throwing it off a little bit.
Yeah, I think also with the rendering too is that the glass is tinted, and we'll
Yeah.
make sure that it's
I
clear.
was just going to say that. I
Yeah,
think
that's why I liked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people
back
are
to the
reacting to the rendering.
Yeah,
I
more
think
than
the
the
proportion
actual
on the
house.
rafter tails is off. I think the windows are showing up too dark. I think, essentially they're kind of restoring the original configuration on the original portion to how it was exactly,
Yeah.
and doing a small garage addition is what we're looking at.
But they're not restuccoing any of the original house. And I think part of the harshness is that this is a cold, computer-generated.
Yes.
It doesn't
It
help.
looks like it was demolished and built anew, and that's not what's,
No, the
that's
original
not what
features
the
will
feel is going to be.
remain.
Yeah, the rendering's not doing you any favors.
And I agree that when the glass is dark because the computer did it, all that, it's much harsher than is going to be reality, so.
I also have a comment on the double door from the carport into the foyer. To me, it makes that secondary entrance very important when the main entrance is really a single hung doors, so I would reduce the size of what's the secondary entrance from the existing carport into the foyer.
Ms. Spain?
I'm comfortable with my motion the way it is.
Okay, so we have the motion that stays. I would like to the motion is the conditions in the staff report, which addresses the window tinting and bringing it to staff for review. So take a look at the conditions. I think everything that everyone's mentioned is in the 7 conditions. And if we're okay with the motion in the second, I'd like to call for a vote.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Rolando?
Yes?
Mr. Gillis?
No.
Mr. Ehrenhauer?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes.
Ms. Deney?
Yes.
Mr. Durana?
Yes.
Ms. Spain?
Yes.
Mr. Garcia-Ponce?
Yes, motion passes 8-1. Congratulations, thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
When did you start this project? How long has this taken you? I'm afraid to ask, but I'm curious.
Too long, a year and a half,
Year and a half?
off and on, year and a half. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I add, I'd like to add a comment to that since she did. That part of the problem is that the Board of Architects' recommendations were not followed. So they went to the special master. They kept going back to the Board of Architects and then to the special master. So, people complain in this city about how long it takes to do plans and things like that. But part of it is that the main hiccup, it seemed to be that the Board of Architects' recommendations weren't followed. So that was my perspective on it. But I do feel bad for how long I know you worked very hard and I appreciate everything. I hope you don't take it personally. And it's a beautiful home and it's going to work out.
Thank you, Mr. Gillis. Staff, any board items, city commission, or city projects updates?
I have one item. I can put the PowerPoint back up, please. So I threatened your new board member with this. So I had the distinct pleasure of doing a final historic inspection for a project on Greenway that I just wanted to share with you because it will not be coming back to you. There's no ad valorem that he can get for this. There's no incentive for this to have gone the way it went. But I just wanted to show you guys a good thing.
Okay.
So this is a very early coral rock house on Greenway. 2 early fishbowl views of it. This is what it looked like for many, many years. That had been restuccoed. It had purple windows. It was a disaster. This is what it looks like now. And this is Alex's house. And it is phenomenal.
I drive by there all the time. I've even
watched
taken
it,
my
yeah.
dog and walked by there to see
And I
the
just-
progress.
The inside is fantastic. They did such a good job, again, with no incentive. This was non-contributing.
Whose house is this? Who's?
Mr. Silva.
Mr. Silvas.
It was non-contributing in the district. Someone could have come in to tear it down. He actually restored it.
It's really good.
It's very good. And so anyway, I just wanted to give him some props because, like I said, y'all will never see this. It won't come back to you, but you
It's almost as good as
should.
the house on Columbus.
So close.
Thank you.
That's all.
It's very cool.
Anyway, to be congratulated.
Can we do a
to the-
proclamation or something to honor historic preservation?
I can't
do a
even give them a
motion.
landmark plaque because we can't make it contributing.
What about individually?
No, because the house had a second story that we allowed him to take off. No, but there's no incentive except for that it was fabulous, so.
This is his recognition right
Yeah,
here,
so-
right now.
Get your kudos while you can.
So to the board, any discussion items from the city?
The only update that I wanted to provide you all was that the commission item regarding the modifications or any alterations to the City Hall complex windows was unanimously approved by the City Commission. And I want to thank Mr. Maxwell for coming and presenting before the commission that day. The iPads, in an effort to go paperless, you all will be receiving, or you all will be discussing the receiving iPads today because we have them. We will be showing you all, do a little training of how to access the agendas. All the materials will be on here. They come with keyboards, and you could put notes on all your plans and everything in preparation for the meetings. And we just need to have some clarification from the city attorney.
We're going to work on a user policy, and if you want to take them home, just making sure that use falls along with device guidelines from the city. And as always, I would caution you that there's a note-taking ability in there. That doesn't mean those won't necessarily be public records, so keep that in mind when you're taking notes on the iPads. And we're going to work with IT in the clerk's office to get those of you who would like them to
there will
yourself.
be
You
an
can always use your
option.
own device.
So the options would be that we can get them all prepared through IT. You'll sign that waiver that the attorney will put together, and you take these home, and they're yours to have while you are a board member. And you'll get a notification when the agendas are posted, and you'll be able to upload the agenda yourself onto the iPad. And these will be yours to bring to the meetings rather than bringing the paper packets that you have today. The other option would be that we'll house them and we'll prepare them for you and bring them to the meeting, and you all will access your agenda materials through the link that we send you on Friday afternoons. And you can go through the Code Hub or the Granicus website to get all your materials.
What happens if you break it or fall or?
Well, that will be part of the.
We'll discuss with IT the use policy, insurance policy, et cetera. I don't think that will be a problem. Maybe don't let your kids play with it, but
Well, the commission gets computers, right? So it would be the same policy with them.
staff are issued them as well. So it would be a policy like that, an acceptable use policy. Obviously, there's limitations on what you can download, use, et cetera. But in the meantime, while we figure that out, you can always see that same electronic information on your own devices. Anybody can see it online, whether or not they're a board member. But as soon as you get that link from Anna on Fridays or whatever day the agenda goes out, anybody could always see that now on any devices. This is just a bonus.
And Ms. Berenas, when do we expect it? January of 2024?
Earlier than that, I suspect.
And we
about
might, if we can
January
overlap and do it sooner, so that way you can have the options of playing with it.
That would be my request, if we can have
Yes.
one overlap.
So
meeting.
ideally, November, December, we'll do an overlap, and then January, have it full paperless.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep. So do you all have a preference? See, Donna?
Whatever is better for you.
Yeah. Okay. So then once we have the paperwork, we'll circulate it to see how you all feel comfortable, whether or not you want to take them home or whether we'll bring them in for you. Sorry, Mr. Rolando, I keep. The last item I have in here was Landmarks Advisory Board joint meeting. Obviously, that meeting is not today. They actually only just met on Monday for their first time since spring. So we wanted to have their meeting in advance of having their joint meeting. And so they have requested for the November 15th to do the joint meeting. And they'll present to you their annual report and some other items that they have listed. And I'll circulate that list with you all of what topics they wanted to discuss that day. I think that's it.
Would that be before or after this meeting?
So the last time it was actually the hour before. We could also, and I don't know if that was a preference of the board or whether.
Preference of the board.
So we can continue to do it that way, or we could just have it as the first item at the beginning of the hearing. And we would just like that everyone attend, because I think there was an attendance issue with the last one, is what they brought up.
That it was too early?
That the Landmarks Advisory Board said that there were members that did not come to the earlier meeting, so they felt like it might be more appropriate to have it during the
And
meeting.
I was one of those members.
Yeah, it was-
And the reason that I didn't come was I accessed the agenda, not with my packet, but online. So I read all of everything online.
Starting at 4 o'clock.
And I didn't get the memo that was in the packet.
It was separate. It was really an
Okay.
advertising thing.
So I
So if I think
apologize.
if we can get a little bit of consensus that everybody will do their best effort to attend the 3 o'clock meeting
How many items do we have in November?
as of now,
Well, how many do we expect?
probably 4, 5. I'm not sure. I think I have 3 off the top of my head that I could think of, one of them being the designation. But I guess we could come maybe closer to the meeting when we have, our deadline is coming up soon, so.
Your Arvida Parkway House on that agenda?
Yeah, oh, no, the Arvida Parkway House, no, the Hammock Park,
Okay.
yes. 5,005.
So let's pause. Let's ask the members of the board, is there a preference to meeting at 4 and having the joint meeting? Or is there any preference to meeting at some time before 4, even if it's 3:30, does it have to be 3? And I'm polling the board. If there's strong.
I'd rather earlier, right? So we get it.
So Mr. Dranas for a little earlier, anybody for not earlier or earlier? Again, this is a straw poll, it means nothing.
I'm comfortable, but then I'm retired. I can come here
Those of
anytime.
us with day jobs, I think, would prefer to start at 4 and then either pick up after it or tack it on to the end. To me, it depends on what the agenda is for our board, plus what is the agenda for the landmark board.
I agree. If it's going, I hate to go on too late in the evening, but 4 o'clock kind of works better for me.
Okay. Well, then since there's no, then 4 o'clock will be fine. If I'm the chair of that meeting, let's run it judiciously, and then we'll have a problem with the timing, so.
If for whatever reason we're getting closer to finalizing that agenda and there are a numerous amount of things.
It's a month away, so we should advertise it and
Yeah.
stick to 4 PM.
Okay. All done?
But under that scenario, then, we will convene, but we will do the joint meeting first and then go to our items. Okay. Yeah, I just think it's good to, if you do it early, and then for them, it's a time certain, rather than them having to wait like unending
Yeah, they'll go
hours
first.
afterwards, And breaking our flow on our agenda to insert it after we've done an hour's work, for example, is kind of weird, so.
Anna, you'll notify the applicants, that we're going to see
Yeah, we'll
that
let them
day,
know
it'll
that they're
be
in
an hour
advance.
later.
Yeah, to give them at least about an hour.
Oh, not an hour later, it's immediately upon.
Right, well, we'll give them notice that there is a joint meeting at the beginning, and that's it.
Okay.
I have a comment on that because I have an issue
I have
with
a
that.
comment also.
Because people get aggravated. If their item's going to be at the end, they could end up waiting here 4 hours.
That's what I just said.
So I don't agree with that. I think that we need to make a time where so if you want to do 4 o'clock, we do the joint meeting at 4, and then we have the Historic Preservation Board meeting at 5, if that's legally acceptable. That would be my recommendation, because I don't think that people should have to come here and spend 4 hours. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it has happened.
Okay. It is.
Especially if you're paying attorneys or architects to be there. So it's not, I agree with Mr. Gillis's recommendation.
Okay, so 4 o'clock Landmark Joint Committee, 5 o'clock beginning of the HEP committee. HEP Board, yes?
Yes.
Okay, Anna, those are marching orders.
Done.
From the board.
Yes.
I have another comment on another topic. If you're
Are
done.
you done, Ms. Prentice?
You done?
Yes.
Ms. Bain?
Okay. So about the meeting and I apologize in advance for this whole rant, but about the windows in this building, that meeting, I listened to it that you went to. I listened to it at least 2 times. And the city manager made it very clear that they were intending to remove the windows of this building. I think the discussion should have been that how to protect the contents of this building after these windows are restored. There are preservation briefs that the National Park Service that have done about windows in national landmarks, and these are the original windows in City Hall. I think there could be storm windows very easily put behind them that could seal the city off, and then we could restore the windows in City Hall. But I understand that they said they were going to bring the project to this board, and I believe they're probably going to bring it the way Public Works brought the Coral Way plazas to us, meaning just for our information, without wanting us to comment or recommend. So I was not very comfortable with the outcome of that meeting, and I apologize.
Before the board has additional comments, because I would imagine we do, can staff clarify what the commission voted on?
So I believe the resolution, the final resolution does give the board the option, the ability to give feedback and recommendation.
Does it?
Yeah, non-binding feedback and recommendation was the language in the resolution, but the commission adopted the resolution as presented by Mr. Maxwell from your board. Their motion was to accept that resolution, so they accepted that process should the city manager proceed under that zoning code exception.
And the resolution also reads any alterations, so it doesn't specifically state replacement, repair, restoration, just as any alteration.
But I will tell you that the city manager is intent.
I am aware.
In the windows, and even talked about steel windows for a smaller profile, which I get. But I really, and he knows exactly how I feel, so he will not be surprised when he reads this. But I would.
No, he is aware.
Yes. So anyway, that's my view on the whole situation.
Additional thoughts on the topic, Mr.
Yes.
Gillis?
But just like you're getting quotes for these windows, they're ready to order the windows. How about we have the quotes for the environmental impact of tearing out all the windows and doors, throwing out all that glass, throwing out all that wood? I want to know what this is an environmentally conscious city. We need to know the impact of that, and also the fact that we don't even have a quote for the restoration. Mm-hmm. So just like they're going to present a quote for replacement, we need a quote for restoration. Thank you.
We need plans.
That's my.
Any other thoughts or comments for staff to share with other staff?
No, I have a follow-up from one of the people that's presented to us on work.
Oh, so
I'd like to hear that.
on the City Hall windows?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all.
Okay.
About the City Hall windows, I'm trying to move on from that.
New business, Mr. Maxwell.
New business. For those of you that recall, there's a 1960s home on that we reviewed earlier in the year that was designed that had very long rafter tails.
Yes.
You guys remember that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think-
When that, I was at the supermarket, and the property owner ran into me and said that it was the best thing that we ever did, forcing him to do that.
Really?
Yeah, and he was grateful and thankful, and he said, it just made all the difference in the world. They figured out how to do it.
They cap it?
They what they did was they shaved it, and they used a plastic type product, like a Trex, okay, and then fit over it so that you could bond it to the existing, just like what we told them that we could do. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that with you.
I've
that
never had
actually,
those type of comments to me in public. So.
Yeah, well,
I have had people come up to
were
me
the
and
zoning
comment.
you work in zoning. No one likes that.
Thank you,
I thought
Mr.
I'd share
Maxwell.
I drive past it every day, and it
Really looks
the house really looks crisp. It looks
Yeah, one of my
nice.
favorite houses.
The architect would be just grinning from ear to ear. So
Great. Happy news. Can we end on happy news, or do we have other news?
I have one other.
Okay, Mr.
item.
Aronhaft.
I'll get in line after
Oh,
Mr.
The last one must be happy.
Today, we have 9 people sitting at the dais, and there's something that we haven't been able to do because we did not have 9.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that we're not operating with a chair. Our vice chair is chairing, correct?
That is correct.
So if anybody is inclined to
I'll make a motion.
make a motion
Wait.
yes.
What do you mean, wait?
So, because I can say that as chair. Before we do that, we can, just for information, we can continue me serving as vice chair until such a time that we vote for a new chair and a vice chair.
I think that's appropriate at this time.
And we are missing potentially a new appointee in Mr. Aaron Haft's seat,
Yes.
Mr. Aaron Haft.
Oh,
And I'm not going to keep speaking. If you could explain to us what the position, the seat is.
So there is a seat for a registered architect that must be appointed by the commission as a whole. That has not been fulfilled, and Mr. Aaron Haft is still serving until the time of that replacement is made. We do have all 9 members here, and we are able to move forward with elections.
Do that.
But we could also wait until we have the full new board.
We have been waiting for the full board to get seated. We had a couple positions. There's still the one that it's unfilled. Excuse me, it is unrenewed, or I don't know. We have 9 members today with a new member coming at some point in the future. We can continue to defer the item and not have a not have a second person so that you have to vote for any sort of person if I'm not here, or we can go ahead and vote for a chair and a vice chair now. It's up to this board to decide.
That was just talk. I wasn't making a motion that it be done today, okay? But,
You weren't?
well, I was suggesting that,
It's up to this board. I'm
okay, I'm
happy
going to
stay
make a
as it is,
motion
or do it later.
and ask for any objections, okay?
okay, but I have a question on that, because I believe the 3, I see. They don't have an architect? No one on the commission has appointed an architect individually?
No.
Okay. Then you're right.
What's the requirement? They have to live in the city, or they can have an office?
I'm happy to go over those requirements just as a quick background here. So there's 9 members, 1 member nominated by each member of the commission, 2 citizen-at-large members nominated by the commission as a whole, and 1 nominated by the city manager, and 1 nominated by the board as a whole. There are some certain provisions regarding professional expertise, and each member of the board shall be a resident of the city during the term of his appointment and also for at least 5 years prior to appointment, unless waived by a 4/5 vote of the commission.
So the architect would need to be a resident.
A resident and for 5 years prior, unless waived by the commission.
Okay.
what happens if there's a member and they move?
They would no longer qualify to be a board member unless there's a vote from the commission to waive that requirement.
No, but I meant if it's not a commission person, just in general, you must current.
Yes, throughout their term.
But if you were living here, but then you moved away to another.
Yeah, you no longer meet the criteria.
No longer meet the criteria, and if the commission wanted to waive that residency requirement for you, you would come back to the commission.
I'm not talking about the commission positions. I'm talking about any position.
It doesn't matter. Any
That applies
position.
for all of them.
Any position.
Okay,
Only the commission has the ability to waive the residency requirement,
all right.
unless specified in the ordinance of a board. But for this purposes of this board, only the commission can waive those requirements.
Okay.
You all.
So, Mr. Silva, did you have an item?
I did. If you've all been reading the news, I'm sure you're aware that there are 2 revisions to the Florida statutes that have affected us here in Miami-Dade County recently, right? One is the superseding of local zoning ordinances for projects that provide a certain percentage of affordable housing. And the other one that's affecting us here in the Gables directly is that any property in a flood zone or from designated zone cannot be stopped from demolition if it has not previously been declared historic, right? So we're seeing that with the Alfred Browning Parker House. That ship has sailed. But I do want to bring to the board's attention that last year, the Florida Senate and the Florida House brought a bill that would do that same thing for anything that was declared historic as well. So working with AIA and with a million other people, that bill was defeated narrowly. It passed in the Senate and it failed in the House, but I'm sure they're going to bring it back again, right? So I would like to see if there's anything that the city can do in terms of lobbying or anything, so that when this comes up again next year's session, because I'm sure it will, that we're kind of positioned to hopefully defeat it again.
So there's two things, Madam City Attorney.
Through the chair, thank you, Mr. Silva. So 2 items. For the Live Local Act, which is the act you're referring to, we will be bringing, we've been working very closely with staff on an implementation order and looking how the city is going to consider projects that are proceeding pursuant to that statutory scheme. We will be providing the commission with an update, I believe, in November on that. So we've been working very diligently and looking at what other municipalities are doing, because as you know, that is a big new piece of legislation that everybody is grappling with. I believe there's only been one application in the whole state of Florida for it so far, because everyone is still trying to figure it out. Separately, as part of our legislative agenda, which is going to be presented to the commission at the commission meeting next Tuesday, we have the repeal and clarification of that provision of state law regarding non-designated historic homes and flood zones as part of our legislative agenda. And we would be, I can't speak for the commission, but as the city attorney's office, we will certainly be following closely any legislation reemerging similar to the one last year. The commission and this board also took a very strong stand against those items last year, and I assume would do so the same if it is brought back. But again, it is a part of our legislative agenda, our legislative priorities, which will be presented to the commission next week, to repeal that provision of state law that is the one that's applying to the current Alfred Parker Browning house.
Thank you.
I have a question back to the architect for the board. Can they also serve on the Board of Architects, or they can't serve on both?
I'd have to look again, but I don't believe the Board of Architects members are allowed to serve on multiple boards.
I've asked them.
Mr.
Why, they don't, or they do?
They can't.
Oh, okay, got it.
Mr. Silva, there's, and I was going to ask the city attorney's office, House and Senate are in committees now, so as the bills start getting written and talked about, I'm sure staff is following up. And I'm sure they would inform us when the appropriate time is. And as she stated earlier this year, we did do a resolution.
I'm happy to keep you all updated on any legislation that we think might affect historic properties in the city. As they roll in, as these months proceed through the session, we'll certainly bring you updates as we find them.
Thank you. Any other items from the board?
One down here.
Mr. Gillis.
Okay, so I don't know if this has been looked into. I don't believe it's been designated, but if you could check for next meeting, the Arthur Vining Davis Observation Tower. It's at 9485 Old Cutler Lane. I wanted to see if that would be impacted by these bills or what could be done about that, because that's a really important structure that needs to be saved before that happens. Thank you.
Yes. Sorry. I can do that.
Any additional items, or is there a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
If I could just do a brief update, I wanted to thank you all who attended our training, our board and committee training. I know we do it every 2 years. We want to thank the clerk's office for the food, and thank you for your attention. We just got our CLE credits, so we will be circulating that along with the video of the training for those of you who are unable to attend, and the affidavit of compliance. So once we get that up on our website, our office will be sending that link around, and just thank you for those of you who attended and asked questions and participated. We really appreciate it.
Do we need to send anything to the county?
You could submit it to the city clerk, and we will submit it to the county, that affidavit that was provided at the training itself, or will be provided on the website when the link goes live. Will be on there as well.
Thank you. Okay, any other information from staff or board? Any motions? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Do we want to deal with the?
I'm not making it.
I know you can't make motions, but I'd like to deal with that now, if I think we could, since we have all 9 people here.
What would you like to deal with, Mr. Maxwell?
Well, Mr. Garcia Pons, I think that we should continue to designate you as and move you up from co-chair to just full chair. That way you have a full chair to sit in.
So do I need to probably accept, or do we go to a motion? Right?
Just a second.
I'll second.
Do you accept it?
That was
The-
right.
So Is there a second from
I'll second it.
Mr. Durana? I will caveat it, right? So
You will caveat?
caveat, I have a caveat, and this is typical. One of the things that I think we've been doing is speaking over each other, and it's, as somebody who watches this on TV, it's impossible to follow. So what I would ask, if I am designated chair, is that we speak through the chair. And that's something that I know is kind of annoying, but I'm going to ask you to do that. So if you don't want to be annoyed, don't vote for me. And if you don't mind a little bit of Badinskiness, I'm happy to serve as chair.
Cool.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful acceptance speech.
So that's
You
a motion.
know, let me just mention, I will say I understand what you're saying, but I find that a really contrived artifice. When I can't stand listening to school board meetings where they constantly say, and through the chair, and through the, this is a formal quasi-judicial board, but there is a lot of camaraderie here, and I understand what you're saying, I appreciate it, but I think it's inappropriate.
Great. So is there a nomination for another chairperson?
So we have a pending motion. I'm sorry. Sorry
have
to
a
serve as
motion.
parliamentarian here, but we have a pending motion and second.
Right, but if I don't accept it, then there's no motion.
If somebody would like to withdraw their motion.
Mr. Maxwell would like to withdraw your motion.
Not really, but
It
we'll have
such
to,
a-
since Mr.
I have a question.
No, there's no vote. If I'm not going to accept, there's no vote
He's
to
not
be made.
accepting, so
I have a
motion withdrawn.
question. What exactly do you mean by we have to go through the chair? What exactly? Because I'm not sure.
So,
What are you
so
requesting?
the recorder, right, whenever we speak, they're recording the thing, and it's a quasi-judicial board. So what we say matters. And often there are 3 or 4 of us either not talking into the mic or talking over one another or just sort of asking questions. And I also agree, I would love it to be collegial, but at sometimes I just think we just speak over each other. And I think that's a problem for the record. And I don't think it's fair to the applicants and even staff talking when we're talking. I would just like to even it out a little bit. So I'm not going to be, I don't wish to be militant about it, but I probably will speak up more than at least the last couple of chairs have. And I just want to state that now. And that is something I'm going to do.
As long as you're fair and equitable.
And I believe I am always fair and equitable, but it is a different style.
Your name is not Menendez, right?
I'm okay with that.
So do we need another motion?
I don't believe so.
No, okay. We have a motion and a second. Motion by Mr. Maxwell, second by Ms. Spain. Do we need to have a vote?
Actually, it's by
Oh, Mr. Durana? Correct.
Can we call the roll?
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Rolando?
Yes.
Mr. Gillis?
Yes.
Mr. Ehrенhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes.
Ms. Dinesh?
Yes.
Mr. Durana?
Yes.
Ms. Spain?
yes.
Mr. Garcia?
Yes. Do we vote for a vice chair?
And I would nominate Mr. Maxwell for vice chair.
Is
I
there-
will second.
So there's a nomination, there's a motion by Mr. Gillis, second by Ms. Dene. Any discussion? Does the vice chair wish to be vice chair?
If elected, I will serve.
Mr. Maxwell accepts. Can we call a roll?
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Rolando?
Yes.
Mr. Gillis?
Yes.
Mr. Ehrenhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yeah, I guess so.
Mr. Durana?
Yes.
Ms. Spain?
Yes.
Mr. Garcia?
Yes, motion passes 9-0.
I don't think you called me, but I'm a yes.
Oh,
Okay.
I did, I just mispronounced your last name. I said Dinesh instead of Spain.
I didn't hear it. Yes.
would you like to, so motion passes 9-0. So we have a chair and a vice chair. Congratulations, Mr. Vice Chair.
Congratulations, Mr. Chair.
Any other motions for today? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
By Mr. Maxwell, second. By Mr. Aaronhaft?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Voice vote. Carries.
Thank you all.
I totally agree with you.
I have the iPad up here if anyone wants to see.